Okay, let's go from Andrew Leslie to Ian Lee, who is a professor of business at Carleton University's Sprott School. His area of expertise is international business, so well placed to give us his take. And I know, just like Mr. Leslie, myself, all of us here at CTV, you're just going through this too, Ian. Big picture, what do you make of it?
I've been watching your coverage, too, while I was reading the document that was just released 25 minutes ago. I have to disagree with one of your panelists on your previous panel who was speaking, I think he was from the NDP, where he said there were real surprises in here. Anyone who has been reading the annual report to the Congress and the President of the United States of America by the USTR, the United States Trade Rep, that publishes this annual report year after year after year will know that what was released today is simply a summary of everything they've been saying for the past 10 or 15 years. There are zero surprises in this report. Zero. That's the first point. The second point I want to make, because I think it's really important, I actually think their demands at the beginning of the document on Canada to open up certain protected industries, which you've already covered very excellently in your coverage. I'm talking dairy, banking, and so forth. That's not radical. That's that's what we should be doing. We should be focusing on the back end of this document, when you get down to the end of the document, where they say, oh, and by the way, we want to maintain the right to protect our industries. We want to maintain the right for Buy American. We want to maintain the right to subsidize. In other words, we want you to open up, which, by the way, I do support. But by the way, we want to continue to protect. So you open up and we'll protect. We'll close down, you open up.
So how much of this is a negotiating tactic, Ian?
For sure. I mean, you always put, in any negotiation, whether it's labor management negotiations or a corporation negotiating with suppliers, I mean, my goodness, even, I suppose, professors negotiating with students from time to time. You put your ideal state out there, your ideal set of conditions that you would like to have in that ideal world. And, if you got everything and everything went your own way, you realize that in negotiations, you have to give up something to get something. But Todd, my worry, my real worry, because governments everywhere, so this isn't a Canadian-American thing, governments, and more precisely politicians, are famous for protecting. They love to protect. I mean, look at Canada inside Canada. It's so difficult, all the trade barriers between the provinces. And what I'm worried about is that what the governments will do is they'll say, okay, we'll let you keep some of your protections if you support our protections. And if that's the case, NAFTA will be a lose, lose, lose. It will be a failure. I hope they have the courage and the leadership to say, we're going to open up in Canada, but by the way, you Americans, you're going to get rid of that pernicious Buy American. You're going to get rid of your protectionisms on your side of the border. Then NAFTA will be win-win-win.
All right, so we're talking about agriculture, we're talking about banking and other services, other financial services, the telecommunications sector, the construction exports as well. What do you think the Trudeau government can do and will do with those sectors?
I hope, because Prime Minister Trudeau has been a very, I think, positive surprise to many of us. I mean, before he was elected, there were all kinds of people who said he didn't have the right stuff. He was going to fall down in the first, big challenge that he faced. And he, I think, has surprised a lot of people with his adroitness on the trade file and his skill in dealing with the Americans and with President Trump, who's a difficult individual, to put it mildly. Whether or not they will give up on agriculture, because it was established by his own father in 1972, it's famous in Ottawa as being one of the most successful and aggressive lobby organizations in all Canada, the dairy farmers lobby. Whether or not he'll give up there, I'm not sure, but it really depends on what the Americans are willing to offer up to the Canadians and the Mexicans. Will they give up on the Buy American or really water it down? Because I think that this Prime Minister has the leadership and the vision and the understanding to recognize he's going to have to give up some of these protections in Canada if we want the Americans to give up some of those protections that are hurting us. The countervailing duties against us on steel, softwood lumber, and some of those areas. So we're going to have to give up something if we want to get something out of the American government in these negotiations.
With the Americans' economy, being just so huge, Ian, such an elephant as you're trying to deal with this, and some people saying that Canada really is the junior partner here. Let me ask you this. How much negotiating power do we actually have?
You know, I've been thinking about this literally since the first FTA in 1988, and then it became, of course, NAFTA in 1992-93, both under then Prime Minister Mulroney. I think, I mean, clearly they're 10 times our size. They are the world superpower. But at the same time, I think there's, I'll leave Mexico out of this equation because I think they're going to face a much more challenging set of negotiations than we are. I think there's a lot of goodwill, and we've seen it in the last 6-9 months, by the American different levels in the United States towards us. The governors, the U.S. governors, congressmen and congresswomen, and senators in the U.S. Congress. And so I think we have a lot of political capital and goodwill because we have been this good neighbor. And it really depends on, again, if they think we're not cheating, if you will. And there are some people in the States that believe we have been cheating, you know, on dairy, you know, not letting in American producers, not letting in Verizon into the telecom, not allowing American banks in any meaningful way to come into Canada. But I think that we do have leverage simply because they do see us as you know, good neighbors. And so I think we do have leverage. We saw it with NAFTA in '93. And so I think that we yet could pull off a good deal for us and the U.S. in these upcoming negotiations.
You mentioned something else as well that I just want to dig a little deeper where we've got you here, Ian. We know the Canadian government has been bracing for impact for this, you know, for a while, trying to figure out different strategies, engaging with the governors and with the White House, et cetera. How much of this document here is about Mexico, do you think?
In my view, my personal view, it's much more about Mexico than Canada. Yes, there are specifics. Dairy, again, you know, Wisconsin, a critical state to the election of Trump, has 1.7 million dairy cows, the #2 dairy cow state in the U.S. So that clearly is an irritant that I think that we're going to have to move on. But a lot of the, if you look at the statements and the rhetoric and the speeches throughout the campaign by Trump, I mean, it was focused overwhelmingly on two places. One was called Mexico and the other was called China. He was not aiming his guns, his big guns, if you will, at Canada. And so there are a couple of irritants there, as I've already said. I think the dairy is just, it's got a lot of attention because they're border states. The dairy states are border states, and they're very vocal as well. But I think overwhelmingly, it's going to be Mexico that's on the firing line in these negotiations, partly because they've done so well under NAFTA in the last 20 years. And remember, we switched places with Mexico on automobile production. We went from being #2 producer in NAFTA to the #3, and the Mexicans went from #3 to #2, and we even switched percentages in terms of the percentage of cars built. We make a lot less cars now, and Mexico makes a lot more, and the Americans are really feeling that. So I do think that this is much more about NAFTA than it is about Canada.
And I guess on the positive side here, just as we wrap up, there are no doubt opportunities for Canada as well in a renegotiation.
I do. I don't, you know, some people I know see, first off, trade agreements don't create trade. What they do is they create the rules surrounding trade. I mean, the ancient Romans and Phoenicians were trading without NAFTA or the European or the Union or the WTO. So my point is, this is an opportunity for us to take those areas where the Americans are cheating. Think of softwood lumber, you know, for example. And I think they are cheating or using the process unfairly. And we can, and digital economy and intellectual property, and we can have a better set of rules that will give us better trading agreements than we had before. So I don't see this as a depressing time. I think this is a huge opportunity facing Canada. And by the way, we do have a very top-notch negotiator there from the government of Canada as our chief negotiator. And so I'm feeling somewhat optimistic.
Ian Lee in Ottawa, bringing us his take on this. Great to have you, as always, to walk us through it, Ian. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Todd.